Hey everybody, this is Mr. Harper. I just wanted to go over one of these questions with you. Y'all seem to be doing fine, but there's still a lot of people who haven't been posting, and so I just want to make sure they understand at least compound interest, because that's one of the, I say harder. It's you're plugging it into a formula, and you are supposed to use a calculator, by the way, so just to make sure that's there's some clarity on that. But I want to do number one because we're going to use two different formulas for both of those. And so it says you deposit $12,500 in an account that pays 4.5% interest annual interest. Find the amount in the account after 7 years for each of the compound frequencies. So first thing is, the important numbers here are 12,500, 4.5%, and 7 years. So this would obviously be my rate, so that's R. 7 years would be my time. And depending on what formula you use, sometimes we call this A, sometimes we call it P. So it just really depends. For our purposes, we're going to call this P. And what that stands for is principal. Again, it doesn't really matter necessarily what letter you call it, as long as you know where it goes in the formula. So when we're compounding monthly, yearly, daily, the formula you're going to use is A equals, and again, you can use P. I'm not sure if there's a, in this formula, there's another letter. P, and then 1 plus, now this is important, R over N, so that's R, not an N. On the bottom it's an N, so let's make that a little bit longer there. R over N, close parentheses, into the power of N T. So some people were getting the wrong answers, and it's probably how you're typing it in a calculator. If you have one of those, I forget what the numbers are, but it's the calculators like the yellow ones we have at school. You can type it in literally just like this, the way it looks. And if it doesn't look like that, you're probably typing it in wrong. Otherwise, make sure that if it's in another calculator, make sure this is in parentheses, so the 1 plus R over N, and make sure you're dividing this. And then when you raise it to the power, so again, if you don't have one of these, if you're raising it to power, make sure you put that whole thing in parentheses. And so, but anyway, when you plug this in, you're just going to plug in the principal, so 12,500. Then it would be 1, sorry, that's a parentheses, 1 plus, now your rate is 4.5%, but as a decimal that's 0.045. And I'm doing this with my finger on a, what do you call it, mouse pad, so that's why it's going a bit slow. Over N, so since it's compounded monthly, that means your N is 12. How many, your N is always how many times you compound it per year. So if it's monthly, that means it's 12 times a year. So then 12 would go here, and then close parentheses, and into the power of N times T, which would be 12 times 7. And I forget what the actual answer for that is, but if you plug it in, it's really, monthly and continuously are really close, actually. I forget the exact amount. I think I checked and y'all all had it right, or at least the ones who've posted it so far. But I at least wanted to go over that for those who, maybe are confused about it. Make sure you're plugging it in correctly on the calculator, and also check your other students' answers to make sure you're getting what they're getting, if they're getting it right, which it seems most people are. So now if it's continuously, it's a different formula. It's some people call it the PERT formula because it spells out PERT, but the only difference here is E is a number. It's not something you're going to plug. Well, you're going to plug it in the calculator, but it's not something you're going to find in the problem itself. It's just a letter that's on the calculator, but it's the same thing. P is principal. The only difference is you don't have to do that parentheses thing. So 12,500. And then you're going to plug in E to the power of 0.045. And again, this is in the exponent. times 7. And again, 7 times 7 is also an exponent. And if you plug that in, it'll give you the answer that I think most of you got. Actually, I think all of you got it right, at least that have posted it so far. So making sure you're plugging that in the calculator correctly, and you should get it right. Like I said, I've seen most of you are getting it right, so I'm not too concerned. But if you have any questions or want me to make a specific video, feel free to ask. I'm gonna try to do these videos like this. I know the writing's not great, but I think it's the least understandable. And so if you have any questions, let me know. Hope you all are staying safe and healthy.